If you are subbing, you're eventually going to want to do some kind of motion tracking. This might apply to subs on screen, like hard subs that are shaking. This might apply to like a graphical element or something that's moving around. Maybe it's already tracked to something and you need to follow it. Or it might be something like this, where you have a sign that you want to track. I'm going to do my best to show you as sort of baseline as possible how to do this, because you can really go crazy with it. You can really take it as far as you want. This can be the basic version. So what you need to do, you have to have Aegisub, obviously. You need to get a plugin called Aegisub-Motion, which is here. Install it using the installing from a release zip. Follow that instruction there. This will be the way to do that. The next thing you have to do to install it is to put a binary in, an x264 binary that it can use to encode video, because it has to cut slices out. So I've provided you with that. The ones that they link to in their documentation are no longer live. I still have a copy of them. So I'll put the link in the description. Grab that zip and then hit Windows key R to go to run. Do %appdata%. Go to Aegisub, and then go and create a folder called x264. So right click new folder, name it x264, and then put those binaries that I give you in the zip into here. And that way we can go in and then go to automation, Aegisub-Motion, trim settings, hit encoder, and now we have to point it to that binary that you just moved in. So again, you go to %appdata%, Aegisub, x264, and then point it to the 32-bit, 8-bit exe, like that. Hit save. You're set up on the Aegisub side of things. Now you need to get Mocha and get it running. You can either do standalone Mocha, you can get it through whichever means you feel like getting it, or you can run it if you have After Effects. There's actually Mocha AE that comes bundled, and it runs as a plugin. So you can take the output of this that we're about to get, and then you can bring it into a composition, and then you can apply it as an effect, or you can go, I think, from the animation menu. There's a Mocha AE option in there. It should be more or less the same once you get to that point, though. I'll be showing you on standalone Mocha. One more thing to set up is make sure that you have the Quicktime binaries installed. So just from Apple's website, just search for, Quicktime installer and install that. There's a Quicktime Lite version somewhere if you don't want some of that extra Apple stuff on there too. Bonjour services and the updater and whatnot. Whatever you do, if you don't have that, Mocha won't be able to read the files that Aegisub-Motion is going to output, okay? So step one is we need to find where in the video we want to do our tracking, and we need to create a line that lasts the duration of the track. So I don't want to do this because it'd be too small. It doesn't last long enough. Here is really where I want to track this. So I'm going to set the start of my line there, and I'll just put some text in. This is MonitorTracking, just so I can see where it is. So yeah, that's lined up. And now I'll let it run. And we're gonna mark the end there, like that. So this line now lasts as long as the track that we're about to do. Cool. So what we'll do now is take this and go to Automation, Aegisub-Motion, Trim. And what that will do is it will slice out just that line that we made and make a little video clip that we can use for this next part, which is to go into Mocha. So run Mocha through whichever means. Once you're in, click the little new project icon, click choose. Now this is where I keep the raws that I'm working on. So there's my Las Vegas Part 1 raw for the Batsu game. And then this is the same thing, but it has these numbers and brackets appended to it. Those are frame numbers. So that's the raw with only frames 54,349 to 54,653. So it's just a clip. And that's what we just created. So let's open that. It will now sort of ask us for some options. These don't matter. Even if the frame rate doesn't match up and stuff, you're tracking the frames. It doesn't matter if they're a different playback rate in something else. So this is fine. Leave the defaults. They're sane. Click OK, and we'll be in. So now we can look over what we've got. It'll be a bit choppy because Mocha needs to cache these, but that doesn't matter because we're doing this kind of step by step anyway. So you can either drag, let me move my face out of the way for this so you can see what's up. You can drag the playhead down here, or if you just want to scrub a couple frames at a time, you can use your mouse wheel to go back and forth like that. We need to now find a good place to start tracking from. So an example of a bad place to start tracking from would be this. Mocha is a plane tracker, so it looks for perfect two-dimensional planes in real space. Now, obviously those don't really exist, but in this, a good example of a plane would be like these bus seats are all kind of in a plane together. So if for some reason I wanted to track something to just the bus seats, I could easily select that and it would be the plane of the bus seats. That might also go for the window. This card he holds can be a plane, but it's not rigid. So if he bends it, we're gonna have a hard time tracking it. We need it to be pretty flat, and you wanna find something with as little motion blur as possible. So it's blurry because he's moving it. So let's just find the most stable spot to track from. And I think that's over here towards the end, sort of third, because he's mostly just holding it still. And that's also, it's pretty flat, that'll work. So let's now tell Mocha where we want to track. So what aspect of this, I don't know why I'm pointing, you can't see it. What aspect of this image do we want to track? So click up here to create an x-spline. This works a lot like the pen tool in Photoshop. You're going to want to click and select around information to track. Now, I'm avoiding his fingers because I think he might kind of twiddle them and move them, and I don't want that to throw the track off. Now you'll say, look, this isn't really the whole thing, but it doesn't matter. Mocha's smart enough to go and say, look, based on what's happening before this and what's happening after this, based on the direction the pixels are blurred in, based on what the noise in the video is doing, whatever secret sauce algorithms they're using, it can go in and follow this. I'm gonna avoid that corner because I feel like it bends a little bit. Now, this is just telling it where to track. This will tell it how to track. Under the track tab by default, we've got translation, scale, rotation, shape, perspective. So translation is moving left, right, up, and down with relative to the camera. Scale is going to be doing that, but also getting bigger or smaller, getting closer or further away. Rotation will be all of that, plus rotating like this. Shear is that also, but I want to say maybe it's skewing like that or skewing like that. And then perspective is like everything. Perspective is full 3D. So since this is an object in real space, there's also camera motion to contend with. We want to go ahead and use perspective. I usually set this to small motion. Tends to work the best for real life stuff. You can set it to large if you don't get good results. Mocha, Boris FX, the guys who make Mocha, have actually got tons of video tutorials on using this. We're using about 1% of what this software can do here. There's all kinds of rotoscoping. There's all kinds of manual track assist stuff. Like if this doesn't work, you can go in and do it by hand. I'm not doing none of that. You can look it all up. It's all outside the scope of this video. We're doing it simple for now. So now that I've told it where to track, now that I've told it what kinds of motion I want it to track, for our own benefit, go up here and get this tool, this show, oh, you can't see it because my face is in the way. Go up here and get this show planar surface tool. It looks like a little box with an S. Put my face back. And that's gonna make this rectangle show up, this blue rectangle. Go ahead and just put the corners to the corners of anything that you can use. So if you're doing hard subs, make a little box that kind of outlines the hard subs neatly. In this case, we've got this board that makes a nice area. What this is doing is the spline we made tells it where to track from and where to look, but it's going to grow and shrink as stuff happens. You might also manually move it, as you'll see in a second. But what this blue is this is the actual output of the track. This is how you're going to check and see, is this working well? Is it not? Since I've lined it up to the board, if it more or less stays on the corners of the board like that, the track is going well. We're all set. We now need to track forwards as well as backwards. Let's track forwards first with this button here. You could do that either by playing or by going sort of one frame at a time. Let's just track forwards and let it play. So it's going to do its thing. I don't expect this to go badly because this is pretty basic here. He just kind of holds it and does that. So it's looking, this is looking really good. It's locked onto those corners still. I'm happy with that. Yep. let it finish the last few frames. And if you hit play, it'll kind of ping pong. And looking at that, yeah, it's pretty good. It's not really drifting. It's not really sort of shaking. It's locked on enough for Aegisub anyway. Let's now go back. So we'll go here and we'll go track backwards. So here it goes. Now I know this is where it's going to start to get difficult, is around this midpoint, because it gets bent. And I'm worried things are going to skew in a weird way. We're doing okay still for these corners. This corner is going to kind of stop matching because that's the bit he bends back under. But really this just needs to be sort of tracked enough to this text that we're not going to have it shaken all over when we do Aegisub on it. So still doing okay. There's some blur, there's some real motion. It's doing really well. It's doing really, really, really well. Okay. That's where it starts to kind of lose it. So looking at that frame, see how it kind of goes like that? We can try to sort of get ahead of that and see if we can still make it trackable. So we need to pick, again, a single plane to track. What's inside my spline here is now bent, so it's on a crazy kind of plane. So let's go back to the last spot where it still looked good, here. And I know that this kind of corner is where it starts to go wrong, and he also kind of moves his hand down. So what I can do is, I've just got it here in the middle of my track already. I've backed it up basically, and I can just start moving these splines around. This is no problem. Oops, that's the edge. That doesn't really change it. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to tuck the spline away from where things go bad. And I'm going to get it away from his hand. So I've totally, completely changed the shape of this now. But it's okay, because you see that green flag means there's a keyframe here and a keyframe here. If we scroll it over, you can see Mocha is animating that from where we had it to here. Plus that blue line there means all of our tracking we already did is still valid. So we're just changing it so that here now, from this back, when we retrack it, it's going to only grab from the bits that aren't getting bent back. So let's see if this gives us a slightly better result. Track backwards. I'm watching the blue corners again. In my opinion, it's kind of inevitable that it's going to go a bit nuts. Like, I don't know that we're going to be able to use all of that. Just based on especially this corner here, how it kind of flings in and out, that's what's going to get put onto our text later. And that corner too up here, kind of moving in and out. So what I'm going to do is call it. I'm going to call it good enough, and we're going to see what happens when we actually try to work with it. So click on down here. Again, we're still in the track tab. We have not left it. Click on export tracking data. Set the format to After Effects CS3 corner pin and hit copy to clipboard. Then back into Aegisub. And now what we'll do is we'll get this ready. So again, I don't know how I'm feeling about this first bit, but let's try and see what happens. Oh, I will move my face back over, sorry. So I'm gonna go to, again, somewhere where it's pretty stable. And honestly, it's about where I want the subs to end up. And I'm going to now take this and we're gonna go ahead and just typeset something real quick and move it and kind of adjust it. So I know that says Tanaka line break. I think he says add lib a line, make it good. I don't know. I don't know what it says. I don't speak Japanese. I'm just a typesetter though, so it doesn't matter. I'm gonna go in and make some braces so I can put some tags in. We're gonna do AN1, that's align 1. That's gonna put the alignment box down to the bottom left here. I'm also going to just change these colors around. Let's make the text black, make the border white. Let's expand the border / board, bigger number like that, just to make it more legible. And then maybe the font size a bit, FS, what do we have, 40, 45, 46, 50 even? That's okay, but I might also need like some shadow or something. What if I do a shad? I just want it to be as legible as possible. I think I've made it too big. I think it was better at 40. Okay, now this is the point at which if you were using a shape, you would put your shape here. And you could use your shape to blank out the line first. I'm not doing that. You totally could. Same procedure. What you've learned here applies. I'm just using now the rotation tools and the perspective tool to get this to kind of look like it's on that page, because if we're gonna motion track it, we may as well make it good, right? I fear I'm just making it worse though. Hang on, let me align the grip with the thing. And then I'm just chasing myself in circles here. I'm sorry, I'm wasting your time. That's good enough. Okay, so now with your playhead on the frame that you've lined up, so if I now go from here, it's gonna consider this to be the correct position relative to the track. So we've just gone in and set about there to be where we want it relative to the track, right? So I'm gonna start with my playhead here, the line selected in the grid. We're gonna go to Automation, Aegisub-Motion, Apply. This is the contents of my clipboard that we just pulled with all the corner pin data. See, coordinates and frame numbers. Leave all these defaults as they are. Again, they're sane defaults. If you want to go mess with them because something isn't working, you can probably go in and kind of figure out what they do. Hit go, and there we are. So you can see what it's done is it's split this into lines, and it's animated our initial parameters for the line based on the motion track from Mocha. So you can see there, the font scaling is going, the border size, everything. And it does a pretty good job. So let's watch it. As expected, the first bit's not amazing. This initial kind of flip, the subs kind of float off it a bit. But you have to kind of make the decision of like, look, is this bad enough? Because this is great. The latter bit is, yeah, nice and smooth. And again, this would look great if you had gone in and wiped that clean with a shape, which I still refuse to do. The first bit's not amazing. I'd say it would pass. I would leave that. That's a judgment call. If you did not want to have it be wonky like that, and you, no matter what you did, you couldn't get a good track in Mocha, what you could do is you could just go back and instead of making your line start here, you could make your line start maybe there, because you know from here you'll get a pretty good track. So you could make your line start there, go in and track it in Mocha, and then back in here before you apply, I'm not going to back it up to that time, but you could go in and before you apply it, if you put in a fade, let's say 100 milliseconds, when you go in and you apply your motion data, it will animate the fade as well. So see how it fades up? So you probably could use like a longer fade, and instead of starting here, start it there where you know it's good. And that way it kind of gracefully appears with a solid track without all that wonking around in the beginning. But that looks great. That's a good job. This has subs, it's worth mentioning. I went through and found this as an example. So there's another one. We could track this too as well. It'd be the same kind of procedure. I won't show you, but that would not be difficult. You know, we might have to worry about being careful to not go all the way to the edge with our spline so we didn't catch his hand coming across. Otherwise, it's just the camera motion. It'd be pretty easy. I would maybe start my track here, select this bit, track backwards up through there, and then bring it in no problem. So that's kind of all I've got. I mean, it's kind of, again, it's worth asking yourself, you know, is this a valid thing to do, or is it just going to be more distracting? You know, you could definitely make a case for just putting this as a little thing in the corner, you know, sign, and then having the text there as a note. But yeah, there's times when it absolutely is the right call. This is kind of a borderline scenario, I think. But there are some times when it's obvious that it's like, yeah, motion tracking is the way to go. So anyway, that's how that works. If you have any further questions, again, if they're on the Mocha side of things, go look at the Mocha training and the Mocha documentation. There's really good stuff in there. If it's about anything about how these talk together or whatever, or advice for what to do when something specific happens, feel free to ask. I'll help if I can. I'm not amazing at this. I just kind of, use it for quick things like this when I need to. Don't bother liking or subscribing anything. I don't do anything of value here. I don't contribute anything other than, it's just a place to host a video that like 3 people will find useful. So I hope the 3 of you get what you need out of this. Good luck with your subbing.